Welcome to the Tech Mobility Podcast, brought to you by Playbook Investors Network, your strategic partner for unstoppable growth. Visit pincommunity.org to get started.
I'm Ken Chester. On the docket, coal plants, electricity, and you. How a flight tracking app evened the score. And are ancillary dwelling units the answer to affordable housing? To add your voice to the conversation, be it to ask a question, share an opinion, or even suggest a topic for future discussion, call or text the Tech Mobility Hotline. That number, 872-222-9793. Or you can email the show directly, talk@techmobility.show. From the Tech Mobility News Desk. I have talked a lot about EVs, and we're going to talk about EVs today, but not the way you think. I'm going to talk about probably one of the most stupid ideas I've ever seen, in case you were wondering if I have an opinion about it. I mean, right now I'm looking at an article here that talks about Tesla. Okay, we'll give Tesla some room, but Tesla is talking about approaching range anxiety in a different way. They recently filed a patent. Let me read you the headline. The End of Range Anxiety? Tesla's new patent hints at long-demanded feature. Tesla may be circling back to longer-range EVs with a redesigned, get this now, towable battery system. Stop. Let me get this straight. In order to extend the range, Tesla's actually advocating a small towable behind your car or behind your crossover, behind your Model 3, behind your Model Y. Really? This is it? No. It's a stupid idea. Now, I don't know who is, wanting this. They say it's a long requested idea. I think it's a step backwards. To me, this would reduce, not enhance, the versatility, optimization, and usefulness of the vehicle I'm driving. Because now, on top of worrying about the vehicle, now I got to worry about a small towable. What if it blows a tire? What if it gets hit? What if it pushes, somebody rear ends it and pushes it up into my vehicle? You talk about a mess. And they're actually filed a patent for this. And they call it integrating an auxiliary range extender with the vehicle's primary high voltage pack, giving you a second battery to tow behind you, adding length, time, and drive to a Tesla car. I got an answer. No. How about no? How about a whole bunch of no, Tesla? And it ain't going to be cheap. If they ever bring this to pass, the number I saw was $16,000. You know what? I could buy a 7-year-old EV as backup and park it in my driveway for $16,000. I could buy a fuel efficient vehicle, older, decent shape, for $16,000. Why would I possibly do this? And honestly, Tesla, how about some good engineering? How about taking the engineering that you put in to the Model S Plaid, bragging 500 miles plus against the Lucid, and putting some of that engineering into the Model 3 and the Model Y? How about that? How about making the batteries more efficient and the engines more efficient, and how they use power, and actually boost the efficiency of the engines? Or maybe increase or further decrease the time it takes to recharge. Really, no. And this is to y'all that think that everything that I talk about when I talk about EVs is rosy. If you've been listening to me, you know that I am quick to call them out on it. And Tesla, I'm calling you out on this. I think, honestly, this is probably one of the worst ideas I've ever seen in the whole EV space. 16,000. How would I insure that? It's all battery. Would that be another vehicle? Would that be a rider on my existing one? Would an insurance company even touch insuring that? And what do you do if it does get damaged? We got a hard enough time right now in the growing EV industry to find repair people who know how to deal with electric cars. Now you've got something that's just a standalone, for lack of a better word, it's a little power wagon. It's a battery on wheels designed to kick in when your primary battery no longer has enough juice. Tesla would have an indicator that would know which battery is at what charge, and should the primary battery drop below a certain percentage, the auxiliary battery kicks in. And in my mind, I'm thinking a million different things of what could go wrong with that. Not to mention what happens if the thing gets older. Yeah, no. And is it always permanently attached? And if it is, then you've just rendered any ability to carry cargo moot. Because I either got to disconnect the thing, move it out the way, or connect it later. No. And then what do you do when you pull into a supercharger to charge it? How does that work? Yeah, I've seen a lot of crazy things. But this one really takes the cake for me. And they announced this plan originally back in 2023. And according to the article, please hear me, according to the article, it said sparking strong interest and early reservation from customers. There is no way. Company even accepted deposits, signaling the extender could reach the market relatively quickly. But they actually canceled the project last May and refunded the money. Now, to be fair, full disclosure, this extender was originally designed for the Cybertruck, and the original range boosting pack was meant to sit inside the truck bed and only occupy 1/3 of its available space. Yeah, Tesla, still no. For all the reasons that you can think of, I am not a fan of the Cybertruck, never was. And now you're going to take 1/3 of its very sacred cargo space for this? Yeah, no. According to the patent they recently filed, it will no longer be implanted within the vehicle's bed, but, like I said, attached behind it in a dedicated trailer. Tesla's updated system would take a hands-off approach to energy management between the vehicle and its trailer. When software senses the trailer's battery holds more charge than the vehicle's onboard pack, it automatically draws from the trailer to power the car, equalizing the load. During charging, the process reverses. Extra energy is routed to whichever battery is running lower to keep both packs balanced. And behind the scenes, the system continuously tracks current critical health metrics like flow and temperature, adjusting power distribution in real time for its seamless operation. Now, to be clear, range extenders aren't new. The original Chevy Volt with a V that came out back in 2011 was an extended range EV. Only those used a small gasoline engine that only kicked in to recharge the batteries, which meant you still got the benefit of electric power because the gasoline engine wasn't running all the time, and it was a smaller engine, so it didn't sip gas. It only existed to recharge the batteries. That's it. And I have friends of mine that owned a Chevy Volt, and they said, we rarely ever visit a gas station. And this is a fellow who drove it every day, fellow broadcaster friend of mine, and he said, if I buy gas once a month or less, it's a lot. And he was driving it every day. So no, range extenders aren't new, but this idea, no. As far as practicality, I see too much wrong with it. Just way too much wrong with it in terms of insurability, maintenance, control, safety. Just no. It was barely a good idea as part of the cargo bed in a Cybertruck. As a standalone small trailer, it makes no sense whatsoever. Improve the original battery, improve the battery management system, improve the density of the batteries you're providing, improve the motors. You can do that. Lucid did. Aging coal plants, spiking electricity demand, and you are connected dots next. You are listening to the Tech Mobility Show.
In business, opportunity doesn't wait, and neither should you. At Playbook Investors Network, we connect visionary entrepreneurs with the strategies, resources, and capital they need to win. Whether you're launching, scaling, or reimagining your business, our network turns ambition into measurable success. Your vision deserves more than a plan. It deserves a playbook that works. Playbook Investors Network, where bold ideas meet bold results. Visit pincommunity.org today.
Are you tired of juggling multiple apps and platforms for meetings, webinars, and staying connected? Look no further than AONmeetings.com, the all-in-one browser-based platform that does it all. With AON Meetings, you can effortlessly communicate with clients, host virtual meetings and webinars, and stay in touch with family and friends, all in one place and for one price. Here's the best part. You can enjoy a 30-day free trial. It's time to simplify your life and boost your productivity. AONmeetings.com, where innovation meets connection. Get started today and revolutionize the way you communicate.
To learn more about the Tech Mobility Show, start by visiting our website. I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. The website is a treasure trove of information about me and the show, as well as where to find it on the radio across the country. Keep up with the happenings at the Tech Mobility Show by visiting techmobility.show. You can also drop us a line at talk@techmobility.show.
Every great business starts with a spark, but taking it to the next level takes strategy, connections, and capital. That's where Playbook Investors Network comes in. We're your strategic partner for accelerating growth, navigating challenges, and capturing market opportunities before your competition does. Your business is more than an idea. Let's make it an impact. Playbook Investors Network. Your future starts here. Learn more at pincommunity.org.
If we could take you through the plant to show you what is new and let you see what's going on and watch the things we do. If you could see the cars and trucks we're working on for you, you'd say incredible. Ford, that's incredible.
Money we're spending every day for factories and people to help us find the way.
If you could see tomorrow the way it looks to us today, you'd say incredible. Ford, that's incredible. Ford, that's incredible. See tomorrow the way it looks to us today, you'd say incredible. Ford, that's incredible. Ford, that's incredible.
This is one of my favorite commercials. It's from 1977. Ford talking about all the things they're doing. 1977. I sold cars in the 1970s. I'm here to tell you, everything you just heard was a lie. I reference a book for you that will give you a bird's eye view of automobile manufacturing in the United States of America in the 1970s. It's called The Savage Factory. The Savage Factory. You want to get an eyeful? It is a former executive's testimony or account of his time in the Sharonsville, Ohio transmission plant back in the 70s. It's worth the read. It will open your eyes. And like I said, I sold cars in the 1970s, not for Ford, but for another automaker. And yes, I'm calling you out, Chrysler. The quality was horrific. It was bad. Pretty much across the board. Didn't matter. It didn't matter. The automakers would get religion later, but they didn't have it in the 70s, that's for sure. I'm here to tell you. Sounds nice. I love the jingle. It's just too bad the reality didn't back up what they were saying. But I like the jingle. Wanted to share it. In 2001, 25 years ago, coal-fired electric power plants accounted for just over 50% of all the electric power produced in the United States. By 2023, 3 years ago, that number had fallen to just 16.2%. And that still represents, hold on, that still represents 675 billion kilowatt hours of power. Let that settle for a minute. 16.2% is generated through a coal-fired electric plant, and that generates 675 billion kilowatts of power. With the rise of large data centers across the country and the rise of power-hungry AI applications and the installed base of EVs, government officials and industry veterans have been scrambling to add more power to the grid, or at the very least, delay the retirement of old power plants, namely coal. What does that mean to you? This is Topic A. My first full-time job out of college was working for a telephone utility. What I learned about working for a utility is they plan life cycles in decades. Whether they're building a central office for telephone service or creating a route to lay cable or developing a new residential area for phone service. We're talking years and decades. The electrical industry is the same way. 30, 40 years ago, when they were looking at demand, and they were looking at their spreadsheets, their futures, and they said, okay, 45 years ago, maybe in the early 1980s, we're going to build a brand new coal plant. It has a life expectancy of 35 years. We're going to build it. We're going to spend millions of dollars, get it online. Maybe it takes them 5 years to get it online. So if they were planning in 1980, it's online by 85, and they're expecting to take that thing offline in 2025. Why does that matter? Number one, because when it gets to the end of life, this isn't like your car crossing 100,000 miles and needing a tune-up. These factories are designed with all the components and supporting materials that go into them. They're designed for a fixed length of time. When it is past that time, it gets prohibitively expensive because this stuff starts wearing out. And we're not talking tens of thousands, we're talking millions of dollars. Hence the coal plants. Now, I mentioned at the top of this episode that only 16.2% of all the power generated in the United States now are coal plants. But there is a move afoot in the administration to extend the life of these coal plants that are at the end of life. And in fact, the administration singled out 5 where they used federal authority, emergency powers, to force these plants to stay open. Why does that matter? If you're up against end of life because you didn't expect to do it because you were doing maintenance in accordance to retiring this plant in 2025 that you opened in 1985, and you know you're going to take it offline in 2025, that's it. It's over. We're done. So your last 5 or 6 years of maintenance is just to keep the thing going, knowing that these components are getting towards the end of life. And when they get that old, they are no longer reliable. So you got a little catch-22 here. Again, in the open, we talked about the rising need for electrical power in the United States and where it's coming from. But keeping a dirty, old, now fairly unreliable plant online, somebody's got to pay for that. It ain't free. And these are costs that were not engineered for the utility nor approved originally by the rate-making body in that state. But if they now have to spend $35 million to keep this plant running, when they need to spend $135 million to really make it run right, and you're looking at a minimum of, when we spend all that money, 10 to 15 years, who's going to pay that? The ratepayers are going to pay it. That means you and me. And here's the thing. let me just skip to something that blew my mind, and it got down to cost. Bottom line, if you coal-fired plant costs $122 per megawatt hour, natural gas $78 per megawatt hour, $61 from wind, and $58 a megawatt hour for solar. So it costs 2 times, maybe 3 times more to run a coal plant per megawatt hour than the other stuff available. And the worst part of it is these 5 plants, 2 weren't running and may never run again. And the other ones aren't needed, according to the local officials. But the ratepayer is going to end up paying to keep these plants online. The iPhone's best flight tracking app helps airline passengers to level up with critical information. This is the Tech Mobility Show.
You've got the drive. You've got the vision. Now you need the right partner to make it happen. At Playbook Investors Network, we power ambitious leaders with the tools, insight, and investment connections to move faster, grow stronger, and lead markets. We're more than advisors. We're your co-pilots in success. Because in business, standing still is not an option. Playbook Investors Network, fueling ambition, delivering results. Visit pincommunity.org.
Did you know that Tech Mobility has a YouTube channel? Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. Each week, I upload a few short videos of some of the hot topics that I cover during my weekly radio program. I've designed these videos to be informative and entertaining. It's another way to keep up on current mobility and technology news and information. Be sure to watch, like, and subscribe to my channel. That's the Tech Mobility Show on YouTube. Check it out. Imagine this. The best flight tracking app on the iPhone, sorry Android, just gave airline passengers access to the same airport intelligence that pilots and airlines have always had. Finally, a way to keep abreast of what's going on during your trip, especially if and when things go sideways. I discuss. This is topic B. If you've been listening to the program any length of time, I'm sure I've talked about my father, who was a master aircraft technician for what used to be Allegheny Airlines, U.S. Air, now American. He retired years ago. So I spent a lot of time around airplanes, airlines, at Logan Airport in particular, where he worked. A lot going on behind the scenes. And as a child of an airline employee, I knew some of it, but didn't know all of it. So imagine, I've been flying since I was 15 years old. My first flight was back in 73. Imagine now, you're in an airport with everything going on, and suddenly your flight gets delayed, or worse, it gets canceled. Now what? You and everybody else in that flight start scrambling. But do you know why? And would knowing why things are going on help you to plan, particularly if you're either trying to get home or trying to get to a destination? Yep, because more information is always good. The app is called Flighty, and it's the favorite app of many frequent travelers, and it just rolled out something called Airport Intelligence. Now, this new feature monitors condition at more than 14,000 airports worldwide and translates the complex data of airport operations into plain English. The app now takes weather events, staffing shortages, ground stops, and runway changes and presents them in an easy-to-understand format in real time before you're standing at a gate wondering why nobody knows what's happening. Yeah, I've got nightmare stories. I'm thinking of one particularly in Minneapolis years ago. On a Friday night, Northwest Orient Airlines, we get to the gate, no ticket agent, no plane, no crew, and no reason why. That was interesting. It would have been nice to know. It would have been nice to have Flighty back then. The only thing worse than realizing that your flight wasn't going anywhere is knowing that someone knew why. It just wasn't you. Flighty's latest update solves the problem in one of the simplest and thoughtfully designed ways ever. Here's its superpower. Its killer feature tells you your flight is delayed even before the airline tells everybody else. It tracks your inbound aircraft 25 hours before departure, wherever the heck it was, on its way to you. It even predicts disruptions using machine learning and sends you a push notification while the gate agent is still pretending everything is fine. Have you ever been in a situation like that? Plane gets delayed, we don't have an update. Plane gets delayed again, we don't have an update. Plane gets delayed again, and you don't have an update. They don't know, or they're not saying. Wouldn't it be nice to know why? That maybe the plane had a mechanical failure before it left the other place. They're trying to scrounge up a plane, and that could be 3 hours, but they don't want to tell you that? Yeah, Flighty will tell you. But up until they introduced airport intelligence, Flighty couldn't always tell you the why the entire airport was falling apart. But now, the feature Airport Intelligence pulls from the same data sources pilots and airline operation centers rely on: meteorological airdrome reports, terminal airdrome forecasts, and notices to airmen. That information. These are dense, technical documents full of acronyms and codes that mean a lot to someone in a cockpit and essentially nothing to the rest of us. Flighty feeds all of that through an AI layer and gives you a summary that makes sense. And here's some other cool things that it does. It has a delay feature, a delay trend feature, what Flighty is calling meltdown forecasting, that shows you when delays are expected to start. Not that you're in the middle of it, when they're expected to start, and more importantly, when they're expected to clear. You now have, for the first time as a traveler, intelligence ahead of everybody else not using this app that will let you know what's going to happen before it happens. It gives you an opportunity before the crowd to maybe change your plans. Get the heck out of there. Or go and enjoy a long dinner. But at least now you know. If you're stuck in an airport because your flight is delayed, it's nice to know whether you have enough time to grab dinner or if you should stick around your gate, or worse, and they love to do this, what gate they're going to change to, which in my case, when I travel, is usually halfway across a very big airport. I couldn't get like the gate next to it. No, they're going to be way over, 2 terminals over, and oh yeah, you got 10 minutes to get there. Have fun. No, I would need this Flighty for sure. The fact that Flighty can ingest all of it and hand you a plain language explanation of why your airport is a disaster before you even leave home is exactly what the founder was trying to work towards since he first decided that all this dedicated and complicated data didn't have to stay that way. Now, are you ready for the coolest part? Flighty, Airport Intelligence. The real story is that any of this is available for free. Flighty opened Airport Intelligence as a public web dashboard at flighty.com/airports. Let me do this again if you're traveling. Flighty, that's FLIGHTY.com/airports. You don't even need the app, and you don't have to subscribe to anything. That means the next time the travel system seizes up, anyone with a browser, let me fix that, anyone with an iPhone browser can see what's happening and why. And not just Flighty Pro subscribers. And of course, by opening the web dashboard to anybody for free, Flighty puts its best capability in front of the exact people who don't know yet why they need it. Talk about marketing genius. You use this thing once, you'll be sold, particularly if you travel a lot. And as an automotive writer back in the day, I used to travel a lot. It would have been nice to have something like this, like Flighty. Particularly today when there's so many variables. When I was a kid traveling as an airline employee's kid, the instructions were leave on the first thing smoking in the morning. Why? Because number one, because we were what you call non-revenue, We flew if there was space available, and if there was a paying butt for that seat, the ticket agent could pull us off the plane, and you needed to have a backup plan. So we got real good at leaving early, and that's still a habit I do to this day, to give you the greatest amount of choice. But imagine if I had this information to go with it. Talk about strategic planning. It would be so incredibly cool. Flighty.com/airports. You're welcome. Whatever I can do to help your travel go a little easier. And this certainly is something worth you checking out. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. In the midst of the home affordability crisis in America, can ancillary dwelling units be the answer? We are the Tech Mobility Show.
Are you tired of juggling multiple apps and platforms for meetings, webinars, and staying connected? Look no further than AONmeetings.com, the all-in-one browser-based platform that does it all. With AON Meetings, you can effortlessly communicate with clients, host virtual meetings and webinars, and stay in touch with family and friends, all in one place and for one price. Here's the best part. You can enjoy a 30-day free trial. It's time to simplify your life and boost your productivity. AONmeetings.com, where innovation meets connection. Get started today and revolutionize the way you communicate.
To learn more about the Tech Mobility Show, start by visiting our website. Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. The website is a treasure trove of information about me and the show, as well as where to find it on the radio across the country. Keep up with the happenings at the Tech Mobility Show by visiting techmobility.show. That's techmobility.show. You can also drop us a line at talk@techmobility.show.
In business, opportunity doesn't wait, and neither should you. At Playbook Investors Network, we connect visionary entrepreneurs with the strategies, resources, and capital they need to win. Whether you're launching, scaling, or reimagining your business, our network turns ambition into measurable success. Your vision deserves more than a plan. It deserves a playbook that works. Playbook Investors Network, where bold ideas meet bold results. Visit pincommunity.org today.
Did you know that Tech Mobility has a YouTube channel? Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. Each week, I upload a few short videos of some of the hot topics that I cover during my weekly radio program. I've designed these videos to be informative and entertaining. It's another way to keep up on current mobility and technology news and information. Be sure to watch, like, and subscribe to my channel. That's the Tech Mobility Show on YouTube. Check it out. Housing shortages are taking a toll everywhere. From large coastal cities to smaller landlocked ones, there's a dearth of affordable housing. Ancillary dwelling units, better known as ADUs, may be a big part of the answer. And I take a look at a couple of different approaches to implementation of ADUs across the country. This is Topic C. Before I start, let me first explain what I'm talking about. And I've mentioned it kind of in passing before, but in case you didn't get that, let me give you the primer now. An ancillary dwelling unit, otherwise known as an ATU, is often called a granny flat, casita, or in-law suite, and its smaller, self-contained residential unit could be located on the same lot as a primary single-family home. It includes its own kitchen, bathroom, and living area, providing independent living space for residents. Advantages: ADUs are legally part of the same property as the main house, usually with one owner, but operate as independent housing. Sizes and types. And they usually range from so many square feet, and it can be detached as a backyard cottage and attached like a garage conversion or an interior basement apartments. And cities that allow ADUs usually do have, and we'll talk about these in a minute, a range. Used for housing family members, renting out for extra income, or downsizing to increase affordability. Here's some benefits and uses. It allows homeowners to adapt their living space for aging parents, adult children, or caregivers. Community impact. It increases housing density and offers affordable options in residential neighborhoods without large-scale development. And added value. Across the board, most of the time, it adds, actually, property value, though it may also increase local taxes. Well, you know, there's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Even here in Des Moines, Iowa, if you go to the city's website, there is a whole section on ancillary dwelling units. And here in Iowa, or at least in Des Moines, they're not as hardcore about what you can use. They give you some general guidelines, but they're not even down to the models. In larger cities like Boise, Idaho, and New York City, they have approved plans. And, you know, you can choose from a variety of different plans, but they already have pre-approved plans. And for big cities with a lot of red tape, that's actually an advantage. That if they've got the plans drawn up and all you got to do is take the plans, pick one, and this is what I'm going to build on my property, you don't have to go through all the site permitting and all of that because the plan is already city approved. You just got to build it according to the plans. And that could save you really thousands of dollars. So let's take a look at one. Boise, Idaho. The city population is 235,000. The metro, Boise Metro, is about 488,000. They estimate that between now and 2033, they would need to add 20,000 units of new housing to meet projected affordable demand. Now, what Boise did is with the influx because of the pandemic, because everybody decided Idaho was a place to go. I'm getting out of California. I'm getting out of Washington. They moved to Idaho. Unfortunately, in all that moving, drove up prices. And now states like Montana, Colorado, as they are still building, are looking at different ways of getting affordable housing built quickly. A recent study of Boise, Idaho showed that only 5% of the city's housing stock is within reach of middle-income residents or households making $75,000 a year. Let me say that again. 5%. 5%. 5. Not 50, not 10, 5. And Boise, something you'd think would be like New York City. No, in Boise, Idaho, 5%. And in order to meet the demand for affordable housing, they would have to build 20,000 units between now and 2033. Towards that end, Boise's Planning and Development Services Department provides free pre-approved blueprints for accessory dwelling units. Boise residents can choose from a batch of 8 plans that respond to varying site conditions and preferences. And they were designed by a local Boise firm, and they got all cute bird names, like the Kestrel and the Osprey. Each of the 8 options were named after the state birds of Idaho. That's pretty cool. The ADUs in the Boise case range from 280 to 695 square feet and come in studio, 1 and 2 bedroom configurations. And they can either be built as freestanding, single-story homes or over garages. And these plans are designed to balance efficiency, livability, and neighborhood compatibility while giving homeowners a practical path to add housing while positively contributing to the community's fabric. Imagine that. That's in Boise. Let me give an example of what's going on in New York. They just launched a platform providing pre-approved ADU plans from 8 different local architects. Pre-approved. And that's a big deal in New York City. Pre-approved. Now, in the case of New York City, the pre-approved plans on a website they call ADU for You come in a variety of shapes, sizes, and costs. The most affordable is $85,000. The most expensive, as you can imagine, is $650,000. That is one heck of a wonderful house out here with land at $650,000. But it's New York. By making it easier for New Yorkers to turn their homes into an extra place for a loved one or a little more income, we're allowing our city to grow while keeping the character of the neighborhoods we love. That came from the mayor. In the case of New York, users start by plopping their address into the website database to determine whether or not their property is eligible for ADU construction. Next, financial modeling tools will help them stake out how much monetary value an ADU would deliver. So you know going in, if I spend X, what your payback would be. And that's pretty cool. Users can plan their ADU using the platform's pre-approved library and begin construction. The platform can also help users get approval for occupancy before moving in or renting out. In the case of New York City, you're looking at construction of 1 or 2 family ADUs with a maximum, in their case, of 800 square feet. And that's a snug little apartment, by the way. Not terrible, but snug. These are just a couple of examples of how cities are looking at trying to increase affordable housing stock without all the permitting and the big projects and all the issues. Now, to be fair, the cost of construction is being borne by the residents. And I think in the case of New York, there may be some financial assistance available. But the residents whose property that's getting built on is footing the bill. So it's not a city project. It's not foisted on the taxpayers. It's literally one ADU at a time. That's good or bad, depending on how you look at it. Whether you feel the city should be taking the lead or whether or not there should be more help.
This is the Tech Mobility Podcast.
Every great business starts with a spark, but taking it to the next level takes strategy, connections, and capital. That's where Playbook Investors Network comes in. We're your strategic partner for accelerating growth, navigating challenges, and capturing market opportunities before your competition does. Your business is more than an idea. Let's make it an impact. Playbook Investors Network. Your future starts here. Learn more at pincommunity.org.
To learn more about the Tech Mobility Show, start by visiting our website. I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. The website is a treasure trove of information about me and the show, as well as where to find it on the radio across the country. Keep up with the happenings at the Tech Mobility Show by visiting techmobility.show. You can also drop us a line at talk@techmobility.show.
Are you tired of juggling multiple apps and platforms for meetings, webinars, and staying connected? Look no further than AONmeetings.com, the all-in-one browser-based platform that does it all. With AON Meetings, you can effortlessly communicate with clients, host virtual meetings and webinars, and stay in touch with family and friends, all in one place and for one price. Here's the best part. You can enjoy a 30-day free trial. It's time to simplify your life and boost your productivity. AONmeetings.com, where innovation meets connection. Get started today and revolutionize the way you communicate.
You've got the drive. You've got the vision. Now you need the right partner to make it happen. At Playbook Investors Network, we power ambitious leaders with the tools, insight, and investment connections to move faster, grow stronger, and lead markets. We're more than advisors. We're your co-pilots in success. Because in business, standing still is not an option. Playbook Investors Network, fueling ambition, delivering results. Visit pincommunity.org.